Hi guys! So what have I been up to this week? I've been working a lot on Secrets and Lies. I was having some trouble with one of the chapters. For a week I couldn't get anywhere, and then I realised that I'd done a scene in the wrong order. So I moved that around, and everything seems to be working on that one again now. I always seem to be able to do thrillers and ghost stories better in colder weather. I don't know why. Maybe it's just I traditionally read more thrillers and ghost stories in colder weather. I'm not sure. Maybe because it's darker and it breeds darkness in us. I don't know. So Secrets and Lies is it's an FBI-based team thing with behavioural analysis and supernatural elements and stuff. As a bit of a cliffhanger, one of the characters has just been abducted, and I'm trying to work out currently how to let the team find out that they've been taken. And currently that feels a bit clumsy, so I'm working on that today. We've just come to the end of the 4th year full of prompts for the Superstars, which is both amazing and terrifying at the same time. So what I do, once we do 12 months of prompts, I take a month off, or I give everyone a month off so that they can recharge their writing batteries, or, as is usually the case, we can all catch up on the ones we haven't written yet. For those of us who do need something to kickstart our writing again, or, you know, just something that can unstick you from wherever you're stuck, I do put up a few challenges. I did 4 of them this year, and I figured I would tell you about them in case you wanted to have a go yourselves. So the first one is the ABC Character Challenge. I find this one particularly rewarding because the idea is you have 26 letters from the English alphabet, or whichever alphabet you choose. Then you pull out a character from things you've written for each letter. So it can be the start of their name, it can be their title name, it can be their nickname. I know one of mine just says Uncle Bob. So you have their name and a short description about them. And you can play with those descriptions. So you can make it a longer one, or you can make it a shorter one. As I said, I've got Uncle Bob for one of them, and I'm pretty sure his description just reads, "There's one in every family." One of the reasons I find it particularly rewarding is because often you tend to forget how much work you've already done. So I've spoken to a few writers about this, particularly in the Superstars group, and we've all at one point or another gone, oh, well, you know, I've only got about 6 characters. And then you do the challenge and you realise that you have a lot more than 26, in fact. Maybe they're only small parts, but they're still part of the greater whole. And it reintroduces you to them if you're working on a sequel, or if you've fallen out of love with that story a little bit, you get to think about them still. They're not long descriptions, they're just short, they're just a bit of a playground, a bit of an introduction to other people. Last year I followed the ABC challenge up with a digital bar, like a tavern, where all of these characters would then meet one another. So all of the A's would meet, or an A and an M would meet each other, or a B and a Z, or, you know, whatever. But I'm not doing it because we wanted to work on dialogue last year, but this year I'm doing more descriptive stuff. The second of the challenges is called the Never Ending Story. Essentially, someone writes a couple of clauses, so maybe half a sentence or a full sentence, and the next person carries it on, and then the next person carries it on, and so on and so forth, and then you get a whole big story. That's quite a lot of fun because you never know where you're going with it. You can add in a little detail that then gets picked up later on, but you can't control where it's going singly. You can only do it as a whole, and it's a lot of fun to do in writing groups because it breaks you out of the stereotypes you write for yourself. So I know I always write stuff and it always ends up being magical. I've done this before with a group and it's turned into a completely normal world romance. And I've worked with people who only ever write thrillers and it's turned into a fairy tale. It's, you know, it breaks you out of the mould that you have set for yourself, consciously or unconsciously. The third writing challenge is the Atlas of Half-Imagined Places. In this one, you start off with 9 prompts, just one-word prompts. So I think the ones that we had this time were, I won't remember all of them, I do remember some of them: Buttercup, Lollipop, Anderson, Crash, Noisy, quiet, things like that. They can be descriptive words, they can be colours, they can be objects, and whatever comes into your head, you write a short description of the place. Now this can be the kind of description you might find in a holiday brochure or an advert online, or it can be someone experiencing that place or the way that place makes them feel. It can be people talking about that place or whatever you like. I quite like that one because we describe places in strange ways in fiction. As an editor, I come across people with lots of different approaches, and I think, I mean, they're all equally valid, but in many ways there is a balance to be had between several of these approaches. People who are just starting out with writing tend to go one of two ways. Either they describe every single detail in a room, and by extension every single detail that a character does, whereas you can include that detail, but it doesn't have to be 3 paragraphs. It can be a moment in time, which gives more life to your character's surroundings, but it doesn't take away from the flow of the narrative. Or they, in terms of description of a place, they might give you the exact dimensions of the room, which in some stories do matter, but not in all of them. The opposite of that, of course, is the complete lack of detail. I have had, I'll paraphrase because I don't want to share anyone's work with anyone. I've had one where someone said, and this was a full chapter of their book, a full chapter of what they described as a finished work, was they walked to the canal, it was sunny, they found an important clue. And that's the whole chapter. It doesn't tell you what the clue is. It doesn't tell you what the clue is anywhere else in the narrative. So you've got to balance that. I mean, I feel that maybe they wrote that in their plan and then didn't take it out of their novel. But if they did, then why did they leave it in their finished piece? It's difficult. It's particularly difficult when you're starting out because you've got so many different things to worry about. But yeah, you need to find a medium between every single detail and no detail at all. And the Atlas of Half-Imagined Places is good for that. I also find it's good if you're beginning to work on a new world, or with some new characters. You can start doing world building with those words. There's a couple of them that I didn't expect to set me off on writing, and there's a couple of them that I've now associated with other stories I'm working on, so it's useful for whatever stage of writing you're at. The final challenge I set was called Help Save the Writers, or Escape. It's a one-word or a one-phrase prompt. It's a place or a situation that your character has to escape from. Any character, even if it's one you've never worked on before, has to escape from in 500 words or less. You have them discovering that they are trapped. So maybe they wake up from being unconscious, maybe they have walked into a room and a door slams behind them. Then they have to they have to look at their surroundings, so you have to do a bit of description, but not too heavy a description. Maybe there's someone in there you can talk to, or threaten, or steal something from, and then they have to escape. And maybe you can lead into a little bit of what they do once they're out of the room. It's useful for characterization, it's useful for description, it's all practice, really. I really enjoyed the one I wrote for it. It's turned into a bit of a Smuggler's Cove, Enid Blyton, Hardy Boys sort of thing, which I didn't expect to write at all, and I'm enjoying tremendously, and may actually become one of my main stories, or, a longer short story for an anthology at some point. If you fancy having a go, by all means, there are loads of prompt generators online. One of the ways I get my prompts for the one-word prompt things, like the Atlas of Half-Imagined Places, is I flick through a dictionary and I put my finger on it and I see where it stopped, and that's usually where I go with that. Yeah, if you do have a go, I'd love to see the results. Post them in the comments, or post a link to it in the comments, that'd be wonderful. So if you want to show off your stuff, you can stick it on the Superstars Facebook page. There's a comment section there, and we'd love to see what you've been up to. So next week, I'm away for part of the week, so hopefully I'll get the video done before I go away, but you never know. I'm heading off for a bit of a Christmas write-in with some of my writing friends, so we may do some joint videos together. We haven't quite decided what on yet, so that'll be interesting. If you want me to do a video on a particular topic to do with writing or research, or editing, or you know, anything really, then let me know in the comments and I will do my best. There is a Q&A for my patrons. For those of you who follow me on Patreon, for my Pratchett level patrons, there is a Q&A next Wednesday. That'll be the Wednesday the 12th of December at 3 PM GMT. Just log in, there'll be a post, it'll go live, and I'll be sat there with a cup of tea and a mince pie, waffling away. Yeah. Have a good week, guys!